Hello, and welcome back to the Reset podcast. I'm Eleni Karachaliou from Aristotle University of Thessaloniki in Greece. In our previous episodes, we delved into the challenges of gender equality in scientific and academic realms. Today, we have a compelling conversation lined up that extends our exploration into the field of networks dedicated to empowering women. We have the pleasure of hosting a remarkable guest, Stella Kasdagli, which is not only a writer and a gender expert, but also the co-founder of Women on Top, which is a distinguished non-profit organization in Greece dedicated to the professional development of women and championing gender equality in the public sphere. Over the past 11 years, Stella has played a pivotal role in guiding Women on Top to become the most experienced organization in Greece in the field of women's professional empowerment. We need to mention that in a significant milestone, the organization joined the National Council of Gender Equality in 2020, marking a historic moment for non-profits in the country. Stella has actively engaged in key policy consultations, collaborating with state institutions and industry leaders to advance the cause of gender equality. And she's also a published author, translator, a passionate advocate for social change, and it is worth mentioning that she has authored 8 books dedicated to the empowerment of girls, women, and teens. Stella, thank you for joining us on the Reset podcast. We are very honored and eager to learn from your experiences and insights.
Thank you, Eleni. I'm so happy to be here with you, and thank you for hosting me.
To kick things off, could you give us an overview of the mission and goals of Women on Top and how it was founded? In what ways can such networks contribute to broader societal change in terms of gender equality?
That's a great question. Thank you. So Women on Top was founded as a mentoring network for women back in 2012. And we started this based on our personal need, to be honest. My then co-founder, Eleni, and myself were looking to find mentors, which means women who worked in a similar professional field than ours and who were a bit more experienced than we were. We were looking for this kind of mentors so that we could learn from them and not exactly follow their steps, but leverage their experience so that we make better choices and that we can avoid pitfalls in our professional lives. So based on that need, we decided to create the first mentoring network for women in Greece. And I'm saying the first mentoring network, not because there weren't any other mentoring networks. There were. For example, there were mentoring networks for women entrepreneurs or for female engineers. But there was not a mentoring network that would target women from any professional field, of any age, any geographical location. And that's what we wanted to do. We tried that and it was very successful. We started out as a Facebook group back in 2012, and then we created our first website all ourselves. And then on 2015, we started also offering professional development workshops for either unemployed women or self-employed women who wanted to expand their operations and their professional activity. Today, Women on Top continues to use mentoring as a fundamental tool for women's empowerment and for networking and for community building. But we have expanded way beyond that. We are an organization that focuses on the economic and professional empowerment of women everywhere in Greece and beyond. And we do that through three main pillars of activity. One is our first pillar. You can imagine that as three circles, one within each other. So our first circle has to do with the individual empowerment of women through mentoring, training, and community building. Then we have our second circle, which encompasses all our collaborations with companies and organizations and academic institutions to help expand their initiatives on gender equality and inclusion. And then we have our third circle, which has to do with the wider society. And there we try to identify and better understand the needs of women everywhere in Greece, collect data that will help us assess the level of gender equality in the country, share our findings, and create awareness campaigns around gender equality issues in the public sphere, and then educate educators on how to integrate gender equality in schools and in general education. So that's what we do. We are a small team of six people, but I think we do many different things, important things, both for us and for the women who follow us. And we hope to continue having an impact on this field.
Indeed, actually, I do believe that you are one of, if not the most known and powerful network in Greece. And I am wondering, are there similar networks at EU level that Women on Top collaborates with or draws inspiration from? Are there any partnerships or collaborations with other organizations or businesses at EU level that have been particularly impactful in advancing your mission?
Yes, I want to share a short story because before I answer your questions, sometimes they ask us who founded Women on Top, and we say we did. And they say, yeah, but who's behind you? Who really founded the network? Or which organization are you based on? Did you base this network on? And we say, well, there existed nothing in Greece of that kind before Women on Top. We didn't copy a similar initiative from abroad. And this is always a very funny conversation, because I think in Greece we are used in bringing things from abroad here, and we are more hesitant to create something new. But we are very happy that we did that. That this does not mean that we don't value collaborations. We do very much, both at an EU level and also in countries outside of the EU. And we do this through two main ways. The two largest networks and organizations we have collaborated on an EU level is WeGate, which is a network and a platform that empowers female entrepreneurs. And WeGate has been the result of an EU project, which has been very impactful over the last few years. We have been members of the steering committee of WeGate just before it concluded its funding cycle, and now we are looking forward to seeing what the WeGate team will do in the future. And we are also members of the EWOB network, which is an organization funded on the EU level to advance the EU legal framework around quotas in corporate boards, which ensure female representation on a board level in listed corporations around the EU. So we are partners for both of these organizations, very impactful organizations, and we learn from them. We bring practices we learn from them in Greece. And we also expand our network thanks to their own networks and their own activities. Other than that, we have participated in a number of Erasmus Plus projects, and we have started building our EU network through those projects. We have collaborated with partners, EU partners from Sweden, Belgium, France, Spain, Italy, and I think that EU projects are a powerful tool to build alliances and collaborations with other impactful organizations around the world. So we are very happy to have this chance to exchange good practices and to learn from people outside of Greece.
Thank you, Stella, and I do agree with you. And since you mentioned also this power of EU projects, I'm going back to Reset, where we are working on redefining scientific excellence. And it has been very challenging, and many times we are in various activities, we are facing questions which is difficult to address about this term, scientific excellence. And I was wondering, how does Women on Top define excellence in the context of the professional sphere?
I think we approach this in two different ways. One is that we believe we need to empower the ability, the capacity of women to follow their aspirations, their professional aspirations, because we believe that any individual, not just women, but really any individual who has the chance to work on something they love and something they have chosen for themselves can really excel at this field. We think that women, because of the societal roles they are very often trapped in, they don't have this opportunity to really listen to their desires, their professional aspirations, and sometimes they find themselves doing the things, the jobs that society thinks are more suitable for women, and this, I believe, is an obstacle to professional excellence, not because women are not good at their other job, but because they would be better at jobs they really love doing. The second way we approach this is that sometimes the way we define excellence is also influenced by our gender stereotypes. So, for example, we define excellence in leadership usually in terms of what we are used to seeing through our experience of male leaders who are, more often than not visible in the public sphere. So we usually define excellence in leadership with assertiveness, sometimes even aggressiveness, characteristics that we have learned to see and accept and normalize in male leaders around the world. So when a woman takes on a leadership position and she exhibits different characteristics as a leader, for example, empathy or a reluctance towards risk, in comparison to the male leader who used to have this position before her, we are reluctant to define her as an excellent leader. And this doesn't have to do with the qualities that this leader should have to be effective in their job. It also has to do with the gender stereotypes that affect our assessment of what excellence in leadership is. And we want to fight against that. So we want to help individuals and teams from any hierarchical level to strip their expectations and their assessments of excellence from those gender stereotypes and remember or learn again what is truly essential for a leader or for a professional in any field, so that we can go back to evaluate the efficiency or the quality of the work a male or female worker, employee, leader does, not in terms of their gender, but in terms of their true capacities.
From your experience and the mentoring and the training you provide, and considering all these challenges that you mentioned, how can organizations and different type of organizations overcome gender-specific obstacles to ensure that excellence is recognized and rewarded equitably? It's only raising awareness and training enough? Is a problem of the will of the leadership of its organization? What do you think?
I like what you mentioned about leadership. We know that leaders has a pivotal role to play in the way organizations approach this challenge. So I would say the engagement and the commitment of leadership to this cause is step number one. Step number two is data, the collection of data, so that organizations get to know which are the main obstacles, where do challenges related to gender equality arise for example, in the employee journey or in their metrics, their data. So we need to collect those data in order to understand our baseline and in order to be able to evaluate the progress we make through the different initiatives. Step three is to set the framework, because sometimes we over rely on our capacities as individuals or as teams. We over rely on our intentions, our good intentions around gender equality, and we forget to create the kind of organizational memory that is needed for the work to continue being done even after we are gone or when we are not there. So we need to create these tools, policies, manuals, handbooks, practices, processes, everything that has the potential to create this organizational memory that will ensure quality and excellence in gender equality, even when ourselves or our teams are not present, to make sure that these things happen as they should happen. And then we have, of course, education, which you mentioned. And when we talk about training and education, we mean systematic education. It's not we do a training once and then we forget about it. Education needs to be systematic. It needs to be collaborative. A webinar that I watch in my free time and without never interacting with my colleagues on this issue is not enough. We need to make adult education collaborative in order to effect real change. And then we need to integrate education in our everyday practices. So leverage those learning moments that happen when something happens that is not right. Are we going to forget about it, or are we going to use it as a teachable moment for everyone around us? Then we have values operationalization. So we need both on an individual, a team level, and an organizational level to define the most important values for us. So that we can use those 3 or 4 values as our guiding principles when we have to make difficult decisions, and use those guiding principles so that we ensure the level of equality, inclusion, respect to diversity in our organizations. And then at the end, our 6th step is communication. We need to keep the lines of communication between different groups and different individuals open so that we can pinpoint challenges and problems as they arise and solve them in the best possible way. We need to be transparent in our communication, not just regarding our wins or our strong points, but also regarding our vulnerabilities. So it's much more effective to say our baseline is this, and we are going to do this and this in order to raise our baseline, than to say we don't have a problem, everything is great around here, and there's nothing we need to do to improve. And then we need to use communication in order to celebrate our wins, even if they are not huge wins, but to celebrate even our small wins in order to motivate people and systems to become better at pursuing gender equality.
I totally agree. I think we miss and we lack of good success stories to use.
So true.
As we will wrap up our discussion, I'd love to hear your perspective on the current state of gender equality in Greece. I was reading that currently Greece ranks 24th in the EU on the Gender Equality Index with 58 points out of 100. And this score is 12 points below the score for the EU as a whole. And it was strange that no score is given to Greece in the domain of violence due to lack of comparable EU-wide data. In your view, are we making any progress? And what unique challenges or successes do you observe here? What lessons or insights can we draw from both the local and EU context as we continue to strive for gender equality?
Thank you for this question. First of all, we need to remember that just last year we were for many years in the last place in the European Gender Equality Index. So our position this year marks a considerable improvement on our part. And we also need to remember that this improvement is mainly thanks to EU regulations that have been incorporated in the Greek law. And it's thanks to those regulations that Greece is one of the 12 countries around the world who have achieved 100% legal gender equality. So gender equality before the law. So all these are considerable achievements, not just from the part of Greece, but from the part of the EU as a whole. Now, there is a lot of work to do in the field of substantial gender equality, not just before the law, but in everyday practice. So the legal framework is an important first step, but then we need to see where are the gaps in the implementation of this law in our everyday practices. And here we have, I think, two main challenges, which I have mentioned before on an organizational level, because, societies are also do also work as organizations. So yes, we need the leadership of this country to be engaged and to be committed in the goal of gender equality. And then our two big gaps, I think, is our data, which you mentioned. We are not great at gathering data, analyzing data, and believing data in Greece. And we need to do that in order to understand where the gaps are and what we need to improve and which of the steps we take to improve things make a difference and which does not. And the example of gender-based violence is a very good example, because if we want to leverage the capacity of the EU to help guide our efforts, then we definitely need to align our data collection practices and mechanisms with a wider EU mechanism so that we can understand what's happening and put what's happening in the context of what's happening around the EU. And then the second thing I think we lack is education, not just in terms of school education for kids, but lifelong education around the issues of gender equality, because sometimes we talk about schools being the main or even the only tool to effect social change, but we forget that the education that's provided to the children through schools is coming from adults. So how can adults offer an inclusive and equitable education if they themselves don't develop their capacities in order to become more gender aware and more capable of educating others on issues of gender equality? So I think data collection and analysis and also education are the two main areas we need to work on in order to see real improvement over the years to come.
Well, from our experience also in Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, no, data is always the problem. And while we were drafting our JEP and the JEPs of the other universities that participating in research, JEPs, I mean gender equality plans, the lack of data was a huge obstacle, and we see there are difficulties not only in terms of technical implications but also in terms of the will of people to share data. And I think I need to say that even through questionnaires or focus groups that we ran, there was a fear or a resistance from people to share experiences, data. So we need also to work on that.
Yeah, and sometimes we think of data collection as starting at the moment where we ask people to share their data, but in reality, this process has begun much earlier when we create a safe environment to encourage people and to make people trustful in order to be able to share their data.
Exactly. Stella, thank you so much for generously sharing your insights and experiences with us today. I think that also the steps that you mentioned for scientific excellence to the organizations will be very useful. Also for Reset and other organizations that hopefully will hear our discussion today.
Thank you, Eleni.
Our conversation has been a true joy, and your passion and dedication are truly palpable, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Eleni. It's great to talk with you.
As we bring this episode to a close, it's clear that organizations like Women on Top play a crucial role in shaping a more equitable future. The dedication to redefining excellence in the professional sphere and addressing gender-specific obstacles is not only commendable but essential for fostering a workplace where everyone has an equal chance to thrive. To our listeners, thank you for joining us on this insightful exploration. Remember, change is a collective effort, and each conversation contributes to a more inclusive and equitable future. Stay tuned for more episodes of the Reset podcast, where we will continue to explore and advocate for gender equality in academia, research, and beyond. Stella, thank you once again for being part of this conversation. And to our audience, until next time, let's continue resetting the narrative and striving for a more equal and empowered world. Goodbye and take care.